But what will your father say? And your mother, what will she think? They will doubtless consent, replied I, when they know Marya Ivanovna. I count on you. My father and mother have full confidence in you. You will intercede for us, won't you? The old fellow was touched. Oh! My father, Petr Andreevich, said he, although you do want to marry too early, still Marya Ivanovna is such a good young lady it would be a sin to let slip so good a chance. I will do as you wish. I will take her, this angel of God, and I will tell your parents, with all due deference, that such a betrothal needs no dowry. I thanked Savéliitch, and went away to share Zarine's room. In my emotion I again began to talk. At first Zarine willingly listened, then his words became fewer and more vague, and at last he replied to one of my questions by a vigorous snore, and I then followed his example. On the morrow, when I told Marya my plans, she saw how reasonable they were, and agreed to them. As Zarine's detachment was to leave the town that same day, and it was no longer possible to hesitate, I parted with Marya after entrusting her to Savéliitch, and giving him a letter for my parents. Marya bid me goodbye all forlorn. I could answer her nothing, not wishing to give way to the feelings of my heart before the bystanders. I returned to Zarine silent and thoughtful. He wished to cheer me. I hoped to raise my spirits. We passed the day noisily, and on the morrow we marched. It was near the end of the month of February. The winter, which had rendered maneuvers difficult, was drawing to a close, and our generals were making ready for a combined campaign. Pugachev had reassembled his troops, and was still to be found before Orenburg. At the approach of our forces the disaffected villages returned to their allegiance. Soon Prince Golitsyn won a complete victory over Pugachev, who had ventured near Fort Telychev. The victor relieved Orenburg, and appeared to have given the finishing stroke to the rebellion. In the midst of all this Zarine had been detached against some mounted Bashkirs, who dispersed before we even set eyes on them. Spring, which caused the rivers to overflow, and thus blocked the roads, surprised us in a little Tartar village, when we consoled ourselves for our forced inaction by the thought that this insignificant war of skirmishers with robbers would soon come to an end. But Pugachev had not been taken. He reappeared very soon in the mining country of the Ural, on the Siberian frontier. He reassembled new bands, and again began his robberies. We soon learnt the destruction of Siberian forts, then the fall of Kazan, and the audacious march of the usurper on Moscow. Zarine received orders to cross the river Volga. I shall not stay to relate the events of the war. I shall only say that misery reached its height. The gentry hid in the woods, the authorities had no longer any power anywhere, the leaders of solitary detachments punished or pardoned without giving account of their conduct. All this extensive and beautiful countryside was laid waste with fire and sword. May God grant we never see again so senseless and pitiless a revolt. At last Pugachev was beaten by Michelson, and was obliged to fly again. Zarine received soon afterwards the news that the robber had been taken and the order to halt. The war was at an end. It was at last possible for me to go home. The thought of embracing my parents and seeing Marya again, of whom I had no news, filled me with joy. I jumped like a child. Zarine laughed, and said, shrugging his shoulders, "Wait a bit, wait till you be married, you'll see I'll go to the devil then." And I must confess a strange feeling embittered my joy. The recollection of the man covered with the blood of so many innocent victims, and the thought of the punishment awaiting him, never left me any peace. "Amela," I said to myself, in vexation, "why did you not cast yourself on the bayonets, or present your heart to the grapeshot?" That had been best for you. After advancing as far as the gates of Moscow, which he might perhaps have taken had not his bold heart failed him at the last moment, Pugachev, beaten, had been delivered up by his comrades for the sum of 100,000 rubles, shut up in an iron cage, and conveyed to Moscow. He was executed by order of Catherine II, in 1775. Zarine gave me leave. A few days later I should have been in the bosom of my family, when an unforeseen thunderbolt struck me. The day of my departure, just as I was about to start, Zarine entered my room with a paper in his hand, looking anxious. I felt a pang at my heart, I was afraid, without knowing wherefore. The major bade my servant leave us, and told me he wished to speak to me. "What's the matter?" I asked, with disquietude. "A little unpleasantness," replied he, offering me the paper. "Read what I have just received." It was a secret dispatch, addressed to all commanders of detachments, ordering them to arrest me wherever I should be found, and to send me under a strong escort to Kasan, to the commission of inquiry appointed to try Pugachev and his accomplices. The paper dropped from my hands. "Come," said Zareen, "it is my duty to execute the order." "Probably the report of your journeys in Pugachev's intimate company has reached headquarters. I hope sincerely the affair will not end badly, and that you will be able to justify yourself to the Commission. Don't be cast down, and start at once. I had a clear conscience, but the thought that our reunion was delayed for some months yet made my heart fail me. After receiving Zareen's affectionate farewell, I got into my telega. 2 hussars, with drawn swords, seated themselves, one on each side of me, and we took the road to Kasan. Chapter 14: The Trial. I did not doubt that the cause of my arrest was my departure from Orenburg without leave. Thus I could easily exculpate myself, for not only had we not been forbidden to make sorties against the enemy, but were encouraged in so doing. Still, my friendly understanding with Pugachev seemed to be proved by a crowd of witnesses, and must appear at least suspicious. All the way I pondered the questions I should be asked, and mentally resolved upon my answers. I determined to tell the judges the whole truth, convinced that it was at once the simplest and surest way of justifying myself.